Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have it douse, not what I'm about, have your f***ing cloud, it be raining now. I keep making sound, go another round, I'm legend bound, can't stop me now.
You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can.
Hey, and hello everybody. How are you guys doing tonight? I am going to play with some of the new stuff going on here. Yes, I told you guys about the banner. There it is. I got a couple of other things I'm working on with this too. What did you guys think about that opening? I finally played it all the way through. What did you think? All right, before I get started tonight, I've got a guest that I really want you guys to hear some of his stories. But before that, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. I feel like this is deja vu. I did this earlier, just a few minutes ago. However, if you are not a member of the Magical Journey on Facebook group, shame on you. Get with the program and go over to Facebook and join my group. It is Magical Journey. There's also a page set up for Magical Journey. The page is strictly about the channel, okay? The group, however, has got some extra stuff going on there on time. And for those of you who are members now, I want you to really get involved with posting on there more, guys, because it's your group too, and it's not just about what I have to say. I want you to share stories, articles that you find online that's really cool. Fill ownership there. All right. On top of that, I have Spotify for the audio folks that just want to hear my beautiful voice. And I actually do have Apple Podcasts going now. I just have to figure out where it went to because it disappeared this morning. Yes, Patricia, you are here and we are live and it's all going down. You are in the right place at the right time with the right people. All right. Without further ado, I am going to bring you guys a man who has an incredible list of experiences. He is a podcaster as well. And I think you're going to really enjoy what he has to say. So welcome to the stage with me, if you will, Daniel Hamilton.
Dan, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, Dan. You know what? I'm all good. How are you?
Man, you know what? I've been busy, but overall, man, I wake up every morning by the grace of the good God, and yeah, man, I'm good. I'm really good.
Right. And it is good. You know what? It is good to acknowledge the goodness of God, because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be doing this, right?
Oh, for sure.
So give my folks a little bit of info on who you are, what you do, and where they can find you at.
Well, I am first and foremost, I am the co-host on a podcast with my bro, one of my best friends in the world, Josh Smith. I'm the co-host of Mysteries Unknown when we do live podcasts. We don't have a set schedule for those. We just kind of get them, I'll message him, hey, you want to do a live? He'll message me, hey, when do you want to do a live? And Normally it's either that night or, a couple days later. But and then I kind of dabbled in with another podcast called the Paranormal Narrative Podcast, which you were a guest on. Could be found on YouTube and Spotify as well. But yeah, other than that, man, that's kind of stuff that I mess around with. I mean, do you want to know like what I've seen or what I've experienced, and we can go into that? Because
Absolutely.
I've had one UFO sighting when I was a junior in high school. I've had cryptid. I had a Sasquatch sighting when I was 12. I've had encounters with what I believe are Sasquatch since I was about 7. The last one was in 92 when I was 20 years old. But my whole life I've had paranormal experiences. I won't like let the cat out of the bag, so to speak. When we start talking during this interview, I'll let you know what I've seen. So I've seen a doppelganger, not my doppelganger of a roommate of mine. So yeah, it's and I love it. So
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because a lot of people have a lot of theories about this, but when it comes to like multiple experiences and just like almost a lifelong trail of experiences, what do you think causes that? What do you feel like some people are just kind of like tagged for that?
honestly, you hear a lot of people talk, "Oh, my third eye." I think that more people, their third eye is more open than most people, and those people that like myself, and I assume you as well, that have had multiple experiences with different encounters. Um, our third eye is more open than um, than most, and I think it happens at an early age. I don't think it's something that just kicks on,
Mhm.
when you're walking down the street at like 19 years old and all of a sudden, boom, it hits you. I think it's been there the whole time,
Right.
and I think that early on, um, the powers that be, I guess they kind of test you throughout your life to see how perceptive of this you are. Now, a lot of people I feel have to be careful with it because they don't truly understand what they're dealing with, and then they
Mm.
let the wrong things get in. Um, and I'm just going to go ahead and announce it. My podcast, the Paranormal Narrative Podcast, I'm ending it, and the reason I'm ending it is that my third eye's open enough to see what's trying to come in to my life. Um, and I'm having spiritual attacks, and I am choosing to end it. Um, because I'm a firm believer when you bring in a lot of different aspects, a lot of different things. I'm not saying these people that I've had on. I mean, you're one of my favorite guests that I've had. Um, but I
Thank
think
you.
I think it's when you put a post out in in the world and you're asking for someone, hey, have you had an experience? And here's an email you can reach me at. And when you get just an avalanche of emails that come in, and it just affects you. And things that I don't like to mess with,
Mhm.
I don't mess with the occult. I don't mess with witchcraft. I don't mess with black magic, possessions, things like that. It's too many things have happened in my life to where I'm able to
Mhm.
recognize it and steer away from it. And I know what happens if someone allows it to grab hold of you. So it's not a battle that I choose to fight. I'm a firm believer if I'm walking down the street and I see something that's not right, I'm gonna cross the street and take a different route and get away from it. That way, I take myself out of that equation, so then it doesn't affect me, doesn't affect my family or my close friends. So
Right, right. And that's understandable. I mean, it's like it's a tough call to make.
yeah,
It really is. I can't imagine like I know when I decided to end my long-term relationship with another platform and kind of off from that, even though I'm starting to seep back into it. It was a difficult call because you put a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of work into these things, you know. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's one of those things. Thank you, Pam. I know that Daniel appreciates that. It's just it's unfortunately when you put yourself out there, you do kind of put yourself out there for all the crazy to come in,
Yeah.
and you know, and fortunately, so far I've been very protected myself. But I get what you're saying. It's definitely something to you know, to really, especially if you got children and so forth. It's very important
Yeah.
to protect your household and so forth. So, but obviously you have other things that we're going to see you involved with, and there are other things that will be coming up in the future. So we have not lost a good podcaster over this, thank goodness.
I'm just switching gears. You know, it's more of what I do as a co-host,
Right.
and I'm gonna wait to launch it when I get a few more interviews. So I've already got 2 lined up for sure. And I think once I probably get maybe like 5 interviews, then I'll launch it, announce it when it's launched. The YouTube channel's already up and ready to go. My Spotify's almost done with it. So I have the email and everything like that. So we're all good to go on there. But again, like I said, when we were talking before the show, I still love this stuff. I still do. I find it fascinating. I really do it. And I'm lucky because everything that I've encountered in my lifetime, um, I've only been scared one time. And I immediately start saying the Lord's Prayer. And we'll get into what I encountered. And when I started saying that, I'll tell you how it reacted. Uh, Luckily, I've never, and as far as I know, I've never encountered a demon. I have never encountered any type of demonic possessions or entities or anything like that that would show me that they come from the place I really don't want to go. Um, but yeah, whenever you want me to start, you just let me know.
So let's talk about this for a minute. So you said your early experiences as a child. I believe you said you started out was the UFO experience the first thing that happened?
No, worst thing happened. I still okay. People watching this and you're live. I don't know. Are you live on Facebook right now?
On YouTube.
Okay, you're live on YouTube. So here's the thing, guys. I don't look it. I'm almost 53 years old. I have 3 kids. I have 3 grandkids. And I remember my first encounter like it was yesterday. I was 4 years old. My little brother was a baby. And I remember that we lived in Tacoma, Washington, and we lived in this house, and I call it the house on the hill because it overlooked Interstate I-5, Interstate 5, which is in Tacoma. And in the back, and again, I could close my eyes, I can keep my eyes open, I could do whatever, blindfold me, and I can describe to you what this house looked like. That's how vivid this memory is to me. We had a giant weeping willow tree in the backyard. You could see it from the highway. We were way up on a hill. You could look up the hill and you could see that tree. Hey Pam, how are you doing? So anyway, I I remember I was 4 and we were staying in a room that was right off the living room. So if you walked in the front door, huge open living room, and then right on the right-hand side of the right wall was a room. And that was like mine and my little brother's room. Well, I kept feeling like something touched my foot. And I thought it was my dad waking me up, because my dad, he would work the midnight shift, so he would be up late watching TV before he went to work, and I could look underneath the door and see the glow of the TV come underneath the door. So I walked out and I saw my dad sitting on the couch, and I go, "Daddy, did you wake me up?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "No." I go, Someone grabbed my foot and like shook my foot." And he's like, "No, no." He goes, come here, sit down with me." So he sat down, and I wound up falling asleep. And the next morning I woke up, I was in my bed. Um, Fast forward a couple years, so I was like almost 5, or no, I was 5, almost 6, and um my little brother, the we had moved up into the second story. Now the second story had steep stairs that went up, then it went up into like just like a like a landing. And then if you the wall was right here on your left-hand side, there was a window at the top of the stairs. You turn to your right, it's just like a big open room. Had like a little enclave to where you could put, set up. You could take them apart and set them side by side, and there'd still be plenty of room between them. And there was a window that it wasn't like a regular size window. It was more like a shorter but longer or wider um, um, window up there. And when we had our bunk beds, where I slept on the top bunk, my brother slept on the bottom bunk because he was a little kid. I was little as well. I used to be fascinated by all the lights that I could see looking out this window. And I was mesmerized. You'd see all of the tail lights and the headlights driving on the highway, and then you could look off and see parts of Tacoma and see all the different lights, and you could see like some of the stoplights turning from red to amber to green, all these. And I would sit there and I would look and I would look and I would look, and I would sometimes fall asleep, leaning up on the little ledge of the window, and my mom would be like, "What are you looking out the window?" Well, if you're looking at my house, we had a chain link fence that went around the house. We had a two-car detached garage, and my dad, that was his workshop. He used to rebuild engines and work on cars as a hobby. To the left of this garage was an open field, and the way that the road went, it kind of almost went to like a triangle almost. So like, so you couldn't really build a house or anything there. Nowadays, you could probably build an apartment building there, but and the road went down, and there was a bend in the road that went to the left, and there were like 4 or 5, maybe 6 street lamps that went down around the bend. And if you looked around the bend, you could see at one time there used to be a pedestrian crossover that went over this interstate. And I remember it because my dad found me when I was like 5 playing on that pedestrian crossover. And every step I took back home, I got a pop on the butt with his hand because, I'm 5 years old and I'm wandering down the street, getting ready to cross over Interstate 5, right? So one day I'm looking at the lights and stuff, and I look down and I'm looking at all the street lights and stuff, and it wasn't like super bright around these street lights. They had a nice glow on them and stuff, but you could see there were shadows around where the light didn't penetrate all the way. And it wasn't like foggy, but it seemed kind of like there was something in the air that made it look really spooky. So I laid back down, and then I hear in my head, "Oh, you didn't see?" And so I look back up, and I'm looking and I'm looking. I don't see nothing, and I lay back down. I hear in my head again, "Look." So I look up again, and at the very end of the road, right where it starts to bend, one of that street light right there, just on the other side of the glow, I see somebody or something.
Oh, wow.
And I duck down, and I hear in my head, "Ha ha, You do see me. I've been watching you. I'm getting goosebumps even talking about this,
Jeez.
man. Like, for real.
Wow.
I'm like 5 years old. And so I duck back down, and whatever reason, I look back up, and now it's at the next stoplight or next street light.
Jeez.
I look back down. I get back down. I look back up at the window, and it's at the next street light. So between our garage, I mean, our driveway had one of these street lamps, like right there at the end of our garage.
Oh, gosh.
And between that one and the one that was on the bend, so there was like, I want to say there were 5 street lamps total right there. So it's on the third one. I look back down, I come back up, it's now at the 4th one. And I start freaking out. I start screaming at the top of my lungs. My brother starts freaking out because I'm freaking out. My dad, I hear my dad come flying up the stairs, and I am bawling. Dad, there's a man out there. There's a man out there. I heard him tell me to look. He said he's been watching me. He's outside. He's outside. And he's like, what? You know, I go, Dad, there's so my dad jumps up on my bed, and he looks out, and he doesn't see anybody. And I'm afraid to look. He's like, where did you see him? I said, he's at that, he was underneath that light right there. And he's like, son, I don't see anybody. I go, Dad, there's somebody out there. So I hear my dad go back downstairs. My mom is already up there by this time, trying to console my little brother because he's freaking out. And I hear my dad open up the back door. Oh, I hear him rummaging through like the junk drawer, pulls out a flashlight, and I hear him go through the back door, and I hear the back door slam. And then I see this flashlight outside. I'm looking out the window now, and I'm freaking out because I think my dad. Because I think my dad is gonna get attacked by this guy. And I'm watching him, and he's flashing. And I watched my dad walk all the way down to that first street light at the bend in the as it turned and it bends, you know, to the left. And I watched him walk that field that was right next to our garage, and he looked everywhere. And he comes back, and he's like, son, he goes, there's nobody out there. And that night, my dad slept on the floor. Up in our room. But right after that happened, now I've had, and this is weird, I've had the same dream from that time even till now. I had this dream, I want to say a year ago or 2 years ago. And this dream was, and it's funny that it's coming at this time. It was right around this time when I was like 5 years old. And this dream consisted of my parents dressing up. My mom was a witch and my dad was a vampire, and they were going to a Halloween party. And our babysitter, her name was Susie, pulls up behind my mom's car. My dad's car was in the garage. He was working on the engine, so they were taking my mom's station wagon. Okay. And Susie pulls up behind my mom's car. Well, as she's getting out of the car, it just starts downpouring. Thunder, lightning, wind, you know, you could hear the water, the rain hit the window, because we had a big bay window in our living room, and we had a big bay window in our kitchen where we would sit at the table and eat. You could look right out into the backyard. And I just remember this dream that this water was just hitting, like someone was just throwing buckets of water against the window. And my mom goes, "Oh, you're parked behind our car." And Susie goes, "Oh, well, I'll move it." My mom goes, No, I'll move it." She grabs the keys, and my mom runs out through the kitchen, out the side door, the back door. I see my mom, and I'm glued to this window. I've got my face pressed against this window, and I see my mom go to Susie's car, goes around to the driver's side, puts in the key, unlocks the door, jumps in, starts the car. And just as I see her put it into gear, I see that the reverse lights come on. The car explodes. It jumps in the air. It flips upside down, lands on its hood. And I see my mom reaching out through this window. And she's on fire. And I watched my mom burn to death. And I woke up just freaking out. And again, my dad come flying upstairs. Luckily, their bedroom was like literally at the bottom of the stairs and to the right a little bit across the hallway. So it was nothing for them to whip the door open and then whoop, because my dad had taken the door off of that stairway. So it was just open, right? They come up and I tell them about my dream and they're like, is this a dream? Everything's okay. It's fine. Nothing happened. I'm still here. See, I'm still here. And I'm like, okay, cool. Fast forward and I see my mom wearing a witch costume. Now this is real life. Okay. My mom and dad are going to a costume party. My mom comes out of the bedroom wearing the same witch costume. My dad comes out wearing the exact same vampire costume. And I remember I see Susie pulling into the driveway and then thunder and lightning starts, raining. And I vividly remember jumping up off the couch, goosebumps here. Okay. Run into the window and I'm looking, and just as the rain starts pouring, and I remember myself saying, tonight's the night. It's going to happen. I see Susie running towards the back door. I hear her come in. I see my mom look out the window and say, Susie, you're parked behind us. My mom grabs her keys and I lose it. I absolutely lose my ever-loving mind. I freaked out so bad that my parents did not go to that costume party.
Wow.
I freaked out so bad that a neighbor down the street from us, who was a biker, and I didn't put this in I didn't tell this part of the nightmare, that when the car flipped over upside down and she was burning to death, our neighbor, who was a biker, he lived across the street and down a couple doors. He comes running up and he's pointing at the window at me, and he's laughing at me. So when I have this deja vu, I'm freaking out, right? The next day, my mom and me are going into her car for something. We're going to like the store or something. And he comes walking up and he goes, is everything okay? I heard somebody screaming last night. And she goes, oh, my son, he just had a really bad night terror nightmare. And I remember my mom telling me when I was young, don't look at a biker, don't wave at a biker because they'll cut your ears off. And it terrified me. I don't know why she would tell me that, but it terrified me. So whenever we used to do a lot of family road trips. So whenever we'd see like guys on motorcycles with the leather vests and the colors and everything, I would always hide, so they couldn't see me looking at them because I didn't want them to cut my ears off. But this guy was just a big guy, right? And he always wore his colors. And he goes, little man, he goes, let me tell you something. He goes, as long as I'm around here, I'm not going to let anything happen to you or your family. I got you. You guys are safe. And I believed him. Like, I'm like, oh, I got a biker on my side now. Look out. It's over. Nothing's going to get me, right? So another thing that happened, there's really only two more things that really were significant enough for me that really stood out and that I've carried with me for this whole time was upstairs in our room, it wasn't really a closet, but it was a closet. It had a window in it. It didn't have a door, didn't have curtains. It was just like an open door that had a bar in there. And I remember my little brother sitting on the floor, and he's about 3, and he's rolling a ball into this closet, and then it rolls back out. And he'd start laughing, and he'd roll it back in, and it would roll back out. I go, how are you doing that? And he's like, I'm not there doing it. And I go, well, let me try. So I go and I roll it, and nothing. So I go in and I see the ball. I grab the ball. I sit back down right next to my little brother, and I roll it, and nothing. And I go, well, how come it's not working for me? And my little brother And now, and I think about it, it's creepy on how he said it. But he turned to me and he looked and he goes, "They don't like you, Bubby. They don't like you." And I go, "What?" He goes, "They don't like you." And I freak out, "Mom, Mom," and I'm screaming. And my mom, she's like, "Boy, what are you guys up there doing?" I go, "Bobby said they don't like me and they're not throwing the ball back to me." She's like, "Stop it. Just play. Just knock it off. I swear, you two, if I have to come up there, you're going to get it." Right. And this is in the 70s. Okay, you guys. So listen, if my parents said you're going to get it, you know what's going to happen. You're going to get it.
Right.
You know, it was none of this, "Oh, you're going to have a timeout." You're going to no, they came up with a switch or a belt and then you got it. So, so I sat there and I go, "I want to see you do it. I think you're doing something." So I go and I stand next to the closet and he rolls the ball and it doesn't roll back. And I go, "Aha, see, I told you, you're doing something." And as I walk back towards him, the ball comes rolling back past me.
Wow.
And it freaked me out. So another thing that happened upstairs, people out there, you know what a big steamer trunk is, right? Now, it's still in my mind, the steamer trunk was ginormous. It probably wasn't. To me, you could have fit, like 3 adult bodies in the steamer trunk. That's how big I remember it being. But in actuality, it probably wasn't that big.
Yeah.
But it was big enough for a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old to climb inside and play in it. My dad put these like latches or locks, so when it lifted up, it would lock into place. Okay. In order to close it, you had to really pull it down or push into like these, I don't know what they're called, joints or whatever. And so they would push in so then you could close it easier. And there was no locks on it. My dad took the locks off of it. So Susie was over watching us one day and we wanted to play hide and seek. So she knew we were going to hide upstairs. She knew we were going to hide in our toy box. Okay. So we had it open. We always had it open. And we jumped in and we're covering each other with stuffed animals and other toys as best as we possibly can. Now, if anybody looked in there, you're going to see a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, partially covered up with toys, thinking that they're invisible. And so we hear her counting and she's walking around downstairs, right? And we hear, and then we hear her get to the bottom of the stairs and she goes, "Ready or not, here I come." And the lid slammed shut down on top of us. And now we're freaking out. We are screaming. We're trying to push up the lid. We're trying to kick the lid. The lid's not opening. It's not opening. Like, we're thinking she snuck up. We didn't hear her. She slammed it and she knew we were in there. So she's sitting on the lid. And we're kicking it and kicking it. It's not budging. Well, then we hear her telling us, "Kick the lid, open the lid. I can't get it open."
Oh, geez.
And like the lid is slammed shut. It will not open. She goes, "Stay here. I'll be right back." So where are we going to go? Right? You got 2 terrified kids. We're freaking out. And next thing you know, we hear this man's voice. And we hear like a drill. We hear hammering. We hear like something cracking the wood. And it's this biker guy. He had just so happened to be out working on his bike, and Susie goes out screaming, and he comes over, and he had to break the lid off of this toy box to get us out of there. And about that time, probably 10, 15 minutes later, my mom and dad come back, and he's in the living room with me, my brother, and Susie. We're crying. He's trying to keep us calm. And my dad, "What's going on? What happened?" And Susie tells him what happened. And my dad asked me what happened. And I kind of told him what happened. And he goes up and he looks and he's like, "There's no reason why these latches should have failed. There's no reason why."
Wow.
And then the last thing that happened was at the house on the hill was we had separated our bunk beds. So I slept on if you're looking at that window I looked out of and got terrorized, I'm sleeping on the left, my brother's sleeping on the right, and our heads are facing the wall underneath the window. And out of nowhere, my brother just wakes up screaming. He sees snakes. He sees
Ugh.
snakes. And I get up and I'm looking, I don't see nothing. It's dark. But we've got like the light coming in from the window, kind of shining down. We can't see anything. My brother's screaming. The light gets flipped on. I hear my mom and dad come upstairs, and my brother is losing his mind. He sees snakes everywhere. They're on the
Mm-mm.
bed, they're on the floor. And now I'm
Mm-mm.
seeing snakes. Like I'm legit seeing snakes. I'm like, oh my, there's snakes. There's snakes. And my dad, he doesn't know what to do. My mom doesn't know what to do. So my dad's trying to act like he's like killing snakes. And my brother's like, you missed it. It's right there. Dad, it's gonna bite us. And it's like not just one, it's hundreds of snakes, he says. And
Yeah.
now in my mind, now subconsciously, I'm seeing snakes. Next thing I know, I hear my mom come running back up the stairs, and behind her is my uncle. And we lived, I want to say this is probably North Tacoma, like maybe like northeast Tacoma. And my uncle lived on the north end. She had called my uncle, and he was in his 60s. And he drove all the way from his house to our house to try to come up and console us, to calm us down. And the whole time, this is like a 35, 45, 50-minute ordeal. We're freaking out. Like we still legit see snakes. And I don't know why he did it. He goes, oh, look, here's some Lincoln logs. Throw these Lincoln logs at the snakes. They'll get rid of the snakes. So we had one of these big tubs of Lincoln logs. And we're zinging Lincoln logs at what we think are snakes. We're throwing,
Wow.
and it's working. We hit one, it disappears. We hit another one, it disappears. That night we went home with my Uncle Walt. I'm gonna take the boys with me. We'll go home and whatever. And we stayed with him for the weekend because we didn't know he didn't know what was going on. My moms didn't know what was going on. But when we came back to the house, no more snakes. I remember eating breakfast one day, and I saw someone walk by the back window towards my dad's garage. Like legit watched the person walk around the side of the house. And I said, Dad, someone just went into your garage. And he went out there, and there was no one in his garage.
Wow.
Shortly after all that happened, my parents wound up divorced, and yeah, we moved away. And that was the beginning of my ordeal, my lifelong, you know, yeah.
Mm. Just, you know what? I had all of it together and was like, really? And then you said the snake word, and I was just like, no. Like, like I can see one snake in a dream or whatever, and it's a bad day for me. It's a bad, bad day. Like, snakes and I are not friends.
You know,
Um,
but here's the thing, I can remember looking at my little brother. And again, I was only 5 years old, but I'm telling you, this stuck with me. This is like it just
mhm,
happened yesterday. When someone's scared, and when someone's filled with terror.
mhm.
My little brother was legitly filled with terror. It was absolute 100% bone-chilling terror that my brother was going through.
I mean,
And I
if I saw a whole room full of snakes, yeah, I'd be freaking out bad too, like that. Wow.
so, and then from there, we moved to um West Virginia with my mom, and I was in kindergarten or first grade. I think I was in first grade. And my mom and my grandmother, my nana, they both worked at a nursing home.
Mm,
And anybody knows you're gonna hear things about nursing home. Well, so I'm like 6, just about 6 or 6, maybe a little over 6. And what happened was the way the shift work was, like, sometimes I would ride with my mom, and I would wait there for my nana to get off work, and then I would ride back with my nana because they only had one car. or I'd ride there with my Nana, and then I'd ride home with my mom. And I did this for, probably a good month and a half, something like that. And I remember there's like a little area that had like, I guess it was kind of like a library in a way, because I remember seeing magazines and books, and there was tables and chairs in there. Um, and I remember sitting there, and this one lady comes in, and she's like, "Oh, hi, how are you?" And I go, "Hi," and she goes, "Well, what's your name?" And I tell her, "Oh, my name's Daniel." And oh, back then I went by Tony because my middle name's Anthony. Oh, I said, "Oh, my name's Tony." And she goes, "Oh, it's such a nice name." She goes, "My name's Myrtle." And I go, "Hi, Myrtle." And she goes like, "Well, are you here visiting your grandma and grandpa?" And I go, "No." I said, "My mom and my Nana works here." And she's like, "Well, what's your mom and your Nana's name?" And I go, My mom's name is Brenda, and my Nana's name is Nana, because I didn't know what my Nana's real name was. So, and she's like, "Oh, Brenda?" I go, "Yeah." And I go, "Yeah." She's like, "The blonde lady." I go, "Yeah, that's my mom." And she goes, "Oh, she's such a nice lady. We just love her here." And she goes, "Is your grandma, does she wear like glasses and you see?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, your grandma's such a nice person. We love her too." And I'm like, "That's cool." You know, I didn't say that, but now I'm thinking, well, that's kind of cool. So we sat and we chatted for a little bit. She was like, "Well, dear, I have to go now." And I remember her getting up and leaving. So, I go home and do hang out with the rest of my cousins and stuff. And then, a couple of days later, I went back and this went on back and forth for like a couple of weeks. And then I was coming home with my Nana, and my Nana goes, she sees me, and I see her. She waits for me to come. So I leave. I go, "Bye." I go, "I'll talk to you next time." And I walked out, and my grandmother, my Nana, was going. She's like, "Honey," she's like, "Who are you talking to?" I go, "Oh, that lady in there." She's like, "Oh, okay." And so didn't really think nothing of it. Couple weeks go by, I go back again, and this time, as I'm sitting in the room, I see Myrtle, but then she has another lady with her. And she goes, "Irene, this is the little boy I was telling you about. His name's Tony." And I go, "Hi." She goes, "My name's Irene." I go, "Hi, Irene." And she goes, "So what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm drawing pictures." And so I was drawing just whatever. Probably tried to do like a house and maybe a dog or I don't remember what I drew. And I go, "I'll draw you a picture too." So I drew pictures and I gave them to her. Now this went on for probably 3 or 4 months total. Okay. And then my mom had got a new job and she was not going to work at the nursing home anymore. So I remember seeing Myrtle and Irene, and I'm like, "Yeah," I says, "I won't be coming back anymore, because my mom got a new job, and she's really happy. So I just want to say, I'm glad I met you, and you guys are like my grandmas." And they both, "Oh, you're so sweet, you're so sweet." And well, you take care, dear, you take care. Okay, so we're gonna fast forward. I'm a teenager. Okay, and my mom and I were just talking. We were talking. We were visiting my Nana, and we were all talking, and I said, and I don't know how it got on the subject of the nursing home. And I said, "Do you guys remember those ladies I talked to?" And my Nana looks at me and she's like, "Dear," and she goes, "You know, Myrtle and Irene, they passed away." And I go, "Oh, that's so sad." I was probably maybe like 13. I go, "That's so sad." And they're like, No, they passed away when you were little.
Mhm.
We used to see Myrtle visit other residents, other guests, other patients. Myrtle had passed away, and they would see her wander the halls, and she would
Wow.
always go into Irene's room. Shortly after Myrtle passed, Irene passed away.
Mm.
Myrtle and Irene had passed away like months before I first started going there.
Wow.
So for like 2 or 3 months, maybe 4 months, I sat there and had interaction with 2 awesome grandmas and had no idea that they were spirits.
Wow.
No idea. After that, my mom met her 3rd husband, my first stepdad, and, she was married before my dad, and, we wound up moving to Florida. Now where we lived was in Lakeland, Florida. They had worked Steve, and my mom were both truck drivers at this time. They were long haulers. They drove refrigeration trucks. So they had produce and sides of beef and stuff, and the company that they worked for wanted them to open up a satellite office in Lakeland, Florida. And I wanna say 10 acres, 15 acres, maybe this is how big this property was. And this was right before 2nd grade. It's like the summer before 2nd grade. And, I remember asking my stepdad, Steve, one day, I go, "Where do I catch the bus at?" And he's like, "Oh, there's that little shack right down there. The bus, you'll catch it down there." And one day I went down there and I thought he was playing a joke on me. I thought he'd taken some like fishing line and he just put it up so I would run into it as a joke, right? No, it wasn't a joke. It was a spider. I kid you not, that was probably as big as this.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was up in the corner and it was eating a lizard. That's how
Gross.
big that spider was. So that freaked me out, right? So while we were there, I started kind of wandering the property, and it was nothing to see semi trailers parked over to one. We had this great big like garage, big pole barn looking thing where, um, you know, they had spare tires in there and other things like that for these semis. And they owned a Peterbilt and a Kenworth. And I just started exploring. And one day I came across this pond and I was
Mm.
like, cool. And we had a little black toy poodle named Charlie, and he was like my shadow. He would follow me everywhere. He slept with me. He'd wait for me outside the bathroom. If he didn't sneak in before I closed the door, and if he did, he would just sit there and watch me while I'm doing my business. He was just a great dog. I loved him. So friendly, so happy. And so he followed me, and I'm walking around this pond, and I'm seeing turtles. I'm seeing frogs, and I
Mhm.
see some fish come up, and I'm like, "That's a catfish, so there's gotta be more catfish in this pond." So I go running back up to the house and tell my mom and Steve that, "Hey, I just found a pond, and there's catfish and frogs and turtles, and I'm gonna go catch some." And they're like, "Well, no, not today, you're not. It's almost supper time, you can go tomorrow." I'm like, "Okay." Next day, I get up, probably, I don't know, 8, 10 o'clock, and I don't even eat breakfast. I just grab my fishing pole, grab a net, and grab some bait, and I'm heading on out, and Charlie's in tow. He's right behind me. So I go to the pond and I sit down, cast out my line, got my bobber going, and now I'm kind of walking on one side of the pond. Now the pond was a pretty big pond.
Mhm.
I mean, it wasn't ginormous. I could probably swim across it no problem. Um, but I'm walking on one side of the pond and I've got my net. I'm trying to grab turtles or frogs. And I look over and I see my bobber kind of dance around a little bit. So I go running over real quick and I just get ready to set my line. And I look up and I see this girl and she's standing on the other side of the pond. And I'm watching her and I wave to her and she waves back. Well, I tried to set my hook and I didn't set it. Brought it in, rebaited, threw it back out, and I look up, she's still standing there. So I get up and I'm gonna go walk over and say hi to her. And as I skid about, I don't know if you kind of look at the pond as like a racetrack, I'm coming around, you know, turn one, going into turn two, that
Mhm.
side of the pond, and she turns around and she runs up the little hill and like runs off into this um citrus orchard and grapefruits. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe she's That's where she lives over, because I know there was a farm over there. And so I go back and try to fish some more, don't catch anything, reel in my line, I go back. Next day, same thing. I see the girl again. I'm like, hey, and I wave. She waves back, and I go, do you live over here? You know, where do you live? And she just points over towards the the orange grove. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I go over, talk to her again, and then she goes and runs back through the orange orchard. I'm like, well, okay, this is kind of garbage. So this time I catch a couple fish, I let them go home, tell my mom. I said, yeah, I'm out the pond. I see this little girl. She's like my age. And she's like, well, if be nice. She might be shy. Just don't scare her or anything. She just, I go, Mom, she just keeps running away. Well, Daniel, she's probably shy. You're new. She's probably new. You know, I'm like, okay. So this happens again. This is the summer before second grade. So I'm out there every day, and I see her every single day. And finally, it gets to where now we're talking.
Mm.
And we're walking with each other, and we're sitting down next to each other. Now, we never touched each other. We would sit down, and you talk funny, because I had moved from, I moved from Washington State to West Virginia and down into Florida. She goes, you talk funny, and I go, well, you talk funny, and so we go on, and we talk, and she tells me her name's Annie, and it's her, she lives over there, and she goes, I like your dog, and all, I mean, we had all this small talk and chatter, and a lot of times we would just sit there and she'd watch me fish, you know. And I remember one day school had started, and I just got home, and I hear a knock on the door, and so I come running out of the living room and see my mom open up the door, and here's this old guy standing there, and I don't remember his name, so I'll call him Marty, okay. And he's standing there, and he's like, "Hi, folks. I'm sorry, haven't come over sooner. I live over yonder. I own the orange grove over here with the grapefruits and oranges. Just want to let you guys know if you guys want, any fresh citrus, oranges. Feel free to go ahead and pick as many as you want. Um, sorry I haven't come over earlier." And I look at him. I go, "Hey," I said, can Annie come over and play one day after school?" And he kind of looked at me and he goes, "Who?" And I go, "Annie." I said, "She said she lives over there too." He's like, "Oh." He's like, "No." He's at home. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Will you see her? Or you hear from her? You tell her I said hello and I miss her." And he's like, "Oh, I will. I will." So then I go back and do whatever. Well, again, fast forward, and I remember this. I was a senior in high school. I remember this. We were living in North Haven, Tennessee. And my mom and I were going through some old pictures, and one of the pictures was Charlie, and he had sand all on him, and he was carrying this branch that was bigger than him, and he was on the path that went down to the pond. And I go, "Mom," I said, "You remember that girl Annie that I saw during the summer before second grade, that I'd see every day and we talked to?" And I said, "I wonder what she's doing now." I said, "She's probably graduating the same year I am." And she's like, "Tony, I'm just gonna tell you." She goes, "Annie passed away." And I go, "Oh," I go, "What?" I go, "How?" And she goes, "Son, Annie passed away a year before we moved into that house." So for the whole summer, I had one of the greatest times. I get emotional talking about it because people think about it, that, oh, hauntings and ghosts, they're so scary, and especially talking around this time of year. Here's two second grade kids just having a great time, just being friendly. And then I find out years later that I was talking to a spirit,
Oh yeah.
just as you and I are sitting here right now. Daniel, I'm telling you right now, she was that real. She was that real. Here I am, welling up with tears.
Yeah. Yeah,
Grown man.
that is pretty incredible actually. Um it's so strange because when people talk about, being able to see spirits and so forth, I don't think sometimes people realize just how like real these things can feel and be. And apparitions, can sometimes form, especially, I've noticed, like, especially with female spirits seem to be able to form apparitions more solidly sometimes than men for some reason. I'm not really sure what the point of that is, how that works. But I have noticed that it seemed like a lot of the ones that are more solid seem to always be female. Or the ones that are more full apparition tend to be more female than male.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not sure what the dynamics of that is, but it seems to be how that plays out sometimes. But yeah, there's a lot when it comes to the spirit world that just makes you go, wow.
And again, I don't. Why did she show herself to me? I don't know. But the whole thing of it was I Dan, she was real, man.
Mm-hmm.
She was real. I didn't feel cold around her. I didn't feel. It's like we were just two second graders just having the time of our life that summer.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got my mom and my stepdad. They got word that they were going to have somebody else take over that satellite office, and my stepdad was being moved up to the headquarters, which is in Grand Junction, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And so we moved to Newport Richey, and at that around that time, my grandparents, my nana and daddy, I called my grandpa, I called him Daddy Bob, because that's just what I called him, And then my great grandma Nanny, she lived with them, and we moved to Newport Richey. And we lived right across the street, and we moved into this house because my stepdad had moved up to Aurora, Colorado to get a house, get everything squared away, and then we would move up to Colorado. And so we moved to Newport Richey, and we were typical redneck hillbilly kids. At the time I had long blonde hair. I had dark brown skin because I was at the beach all the time. I was just living life. My little brother had dark brown hair. He had dark skin. We were both tan little hillbillies, running around barefoot, having a good time. And I remember coming out the front door of our house, and I look up and I see smoke just billowing from my Nana and Daddy Bob's house. And I'm like, Mom, the house is on fire. The house is on fire. And my mom's like, what? And she comes out, and she sees it. She calls the police. I don't remember if she called 911, but she called the fire department. You could hear him coming down the street. And I see my Nana and my great grandma. They're coming out, but I don't see my Daddy Bob. I don't see my grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm starting to worry. And I hear my mom screaming. Everybody's hollering. Sirens are getting closer and closer. And I immediately run up to the house and grab the hose, and I'm running around to the side to see if I could maybe, get in through the side door, because it was like a patio, but it was screened in, and it's a sliding glass door that went into like the dining room area, and he had it built up. It was like a little like rock garden, and he had lizards in it and things. It was really cool. And just as I grabbed the hose and started running along the side of the house, again, I'm second grade, but this is my grandpa. People listen, anybody watches, don't ever think that a small kid can't do something. You'd be amazed at what they could do.
Mhm.
So I see him coming out around from the side of the house, and he's just cussing. What the hell? The house is on fire, and blah, blah, blah. Who the hell? I mean, just losing his mind, right? Well, the fire department come in, they do their thing. They put it out. Turns out it was electrical fire. A lot of smoke damage, tons of smoke damage, tons of water damage, but they stopped the house from legitimately catching on fire and burning down. So we're standing out there, and the paramedics are looking at my great grandma and stuff like that. My grandma, my daddy Bob, they're like, "We're fine, we're fine, we're fine." And this firefighter comes out. And he's like, "Sir, we're sorry to inform you, we can't find your dog." And I'm kind of like looking, and I'm like, when did my grandparents get a dog? And my daddy Bob goes, "Oh, we don't have a dog, you know." And he's like, "Will you please come here and explain this to me?" So me, being the nosy person that I was and still am, I'm not gonna see wants to be, hey, what do you need explained? I got to see what's going on. So we walk through the house very carefully. Me, my mom, my grandfather, right? My grandma and my great grandma were sitting out with my brother. We go in there, and he goes, "Will you explain this, please?" On the bed my grandfather was taking a nap on when this fire broke out, you can see the silhouette of him because the soot had covered the sheet, and you see a perfect silhouette of my grandfather. Right next to him was a perfect silhouette of a German Shepherd
Wow.
laying on his side. And I remember my grandfather, he started getting choked on. He was a Marine. He was a tough guy, but he got a little choked up, and he goes, "Ah, Fritz. Boy, I sure miss you, Fritz." Fritz was his German Shepherd that he had when I was really little. And Fritz passed away when we lived in Washington State, when my dad was stationed, my biological dad was stationed at Fort Lewis. And when Fritz passed away, my dad and my grandfather had carried Fritz up into the woods on part of the base and buried him. So that was pretty amazing what happened in Florida. I'm trying to think of kind of go in a chronological order. I really don't remember anything happening too crazy in Colorado. I remember being in 10th grade. Is it 10th grade? Yeah, 10th grade. And I was eating breakfast. Nope, sorry, 8th grade. I was eating breakfast. We lived in Tacoma. I was living with my Uncle Walt. Now, it's really weird with my Uncle Walt. I knew my Uncle Walt before my Aunt Pam, my mom's sister, married him. He was my uncle before, but he wasn't really my uncle. He was my dad's boss, and he was just like part of the family. He was a single guy. He was older guy. He was just like part of the family. So I called him Uncle Walt. I've always known him as Uncle Walt. And then my mom's sister met him, and they got married, and she moved in with him at his house. So now he's my uncle by marriage now. And so I remember sitting at the dining room table looking out the window, and across the street there was a house, and I can't remember what her name was. I'll call her June. June had passed away, and she lived with her daughter, I'll say Carla. And I'm sitting in the dining room table, and I'm looking out, and I see one of the curtains pull back and they go back. And I'm like, well, that's weird because that's June's bedroom. I know that. I'm looking again. I'm eating my cereal. I look again, and this time I see the curtain pull back, and I see June's face. June had passed away like a year prior, but I'm looking at June. I get up, take my bowl of cereal, put it in the sink, go out the door, go to the garage, take my bicycle out, and I ride as fast as I can away from the house, down the alleyway over to another street, and I was gone for the rest of the day. So that's what happened when I was in 8th grade. Yeah, I mean, it's just certain things like that would happen. I'd see certain things. I wasn't sure what I was looking at times. When I joined the military is when I really, really started experiencing a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff. I was stationed in Germany, and I lived on one base called the Kaserne, the Bolka Kaserne, which is in Kerpen, Germany. And then we had to take a posting bus or like a bus all the way over to Norvenich Air Base. And that's where we worked because we had resources. That's all I'm going to tell you. We had resources there. And are still able to see the dead. Yes, I can still see. I can still see the dead, and I'll tell you that in a second. So when I was stationed in Germany, the base, this place where we live, the Balka Kaserne, which is again, it's a German Air Force base, was rumored to have been a Hitler youth camp, and the dormitory that I lived in was dorm 4E, so 4 like the number 4 and then E for Echo. And we lovingly nicknamed that dorm the morgue. And the reason we nicknamed it the morgue is because we believe what is RH negative? I don't know what that means.
I think it's interesting that both of them asked the same question at the same time.
Yeah.
Identically. That's crazy. So RH negative is a blood type.
No, I'm a negative blood, but I'm not going to say what blood type I am. But I am a negative blood. My blood type is something negative. It's not AB negative, but it's one of those negatives. So RH negative. I didn't even know there was RH negative blood. So, we believe that in the basement of this dorm, there was an actual morgue. We believe what we saw down there was an embalming table, and some other stuff that it was odd that there was a drain where the drain was placed in the floor. It was really odd that it was there. There was also a tunnel that was bricked off. And we believe that tunnel connected to the other dormitories or other buildings around us, and then also to other parts of the base. I saw a lot of really, really crazy things there. You'd hear a lot of stuff. If you walked in the front door of this dormitory, my room, and it was really weird because you had like a big open like lobby. You had the stairs that went downstairs. The stairs went down to a landing, and then they went down into the basement. And then you had stairs that went straight up to a landing, and then turned and went up to another landing to the second floor. Now, at the top of that landing, there was a room directly right in front of the top of the stairs. Off to the left, there was a like a series of 4 dorm rooms, okay? And they had one of those big heavy doors that you pushed like that one like a bar to open them up, or a latch, like a big handle, you'd pull it open, and they always kept it usually propped open. And then off to the right-hand side of this landing, we called the female dorms, and there was, I think, eight rooms down that way, and that's where a lot of the single females would live in that dorm. They had that whole side of the upstairs to their own. They had the bathroom and everything, and then everybody over here, the 4 dormitories were men's, and they'd had to use the community bathroom downstairs on the main floor. And just each floor mirrored itself. with the aesthetics, the doors and things like that. They were glass and things like that, so you could see all the way down. And except for the girls, because they had their windows were kind of frosted, because sometimes they would come out of the shower and maybe have a towel on, maybe not have a towel on. I just never saw anything because it was frosted. But anyway, I remember I just got off of a swing shift, 6 to 2, 2 to 10, and then 10 to 6. Those were the shift hours. So I get off shift. I go down to my room, drop my bag off, take my BDU blouse off, take my boots off, and then I go upstairs because they're having a party. I go up there, and one of the guys is like, "Hamilton, you want a drink?" I'm like, "Yep." So I have like a tumbler, probably like this big, right? And he pours about this much Jack in it.
Wow.
And the rest Coke, right? And I took a drink, and I'm like, "Man, I can't drink this." And he goes, "You're gonna drink that." So I'm like, "Okay." So I'm not drinking it. I didn't drink it all, but I sat up in the windowsill, and they had these really deep windowsills because the windows were really cool windows. The top would bend down like this, so you could have the window this. The bottom would kick out, or you could swing the whole thing in or the whole thing out, so you can clean them however. I love those windows. So the windowsill was a deep windowsill, so you could sit up in there and have no problem. So that's what I was doing. I was sitting up in the windowsill, and I look up and I see this cloaked figure come from the top of the stairs and into that one room that's at the top of the stairs. And I know the guy who was staying there. I go, "Dude," I said, who has the combination to your room?" He's like, "No one has a combination to my room." I go, "Bro, someone just walked into your room." And he's like, "Hamilton, shut your mouth." And I go, "Bro, I'm telling you, I just saw some dude. He was wearing like a hoodie or something. He just walked into your room." He goes, "Man, I'll show you. No one's in my room." So all of us, and there's probably in this little area, there's probably 25 of us in this area. All the doors to the rooms are open. We've got music playing. We're all just hanging out, doing our thing. All of us file out. He hits his combo on his lock, on his door, opens it up. His room looked like it threw up on itself.
Wow.
Like everything in his drawers were thrown all over the place. It's like a tornado blew up in his room. And he got mad at me. He's like, "What did you do?" I go, "Man, I'm telling you, I just saw a dude walk in your room." And one of the guys goes, "Describe what you said." I said, "I don't know. He was wearing like a hood, and he didn't look. He was looking down, and he walked in. Like, was it like a cloak?" And I go, "I don't know. It was a cloak. So it was long, like a hooded jacket or something." He's like, "Dude, man, that phantom visited your room." And we started laughing. I'm like, "Man, what are you talking about, man? What are you talking about? A phantom? There ain't no phantom in this place." And we're all giggling and giggling, giggling until you see it more than one time. I saw the phantom like 4 times. Not only into my room, not in that room. I came in one night from working a mid or a swing. It's like 11:30 at night, and I come walking in, and I just get ready to open my door, and I hear something, and I look down, and I see it walk into the shower area. The exact same thing. I've had things missing. I had a remote control to my VCR, and I would always put it on top of the VCR. I never slept with it in my bed or put it when I got done watching a movie, I'd shut it off. I'd get up and put it on there. It's just how I am. And I came home from working out, was going to watch a movie, and looked everywhere for my remote control. Now, in my room, I had 2 wall lockers, a bed, a dresser, a desk, end table, and then a refrigerator, like a full-size refrigerator. That's all I had in my room. I literally tore my room apart looking for my remote control.
Wow.
And I started telling some people about it, and I told my dad about it. And I would call the States like every other week, and I'd pump 5 mark coins into the phone and sit there and call him. And I just told him, I said, Dad, I said, the weirdest thing is going on. I said, I don't know what's going on. I said, but I'm missing a necklace that you bought me that had the gold cross that you bought me. I'm missing that necklace. I'm missing a remote control. And I kind of told him what was going on with the house or with the dorm. And he's like, man, he goes, you got to give an offering. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, you got to give an offering, like tobacco or something. He goes, put it on your windowsill. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, listen, I know people around you smoke. He goes, ask them for a couple cigarettes and just put them on your windowsill and just explain, hey, this is for you. I want my stuff back. Give me my stuff back and you can have this. If you give me my stuff back, I'll give you a couple of more. But if you don't, that's it. That's it. And so I did what he said. And I said exactly what he told me to say. I left. I came back a few hours later, like 3 or 4 hours later, opened up my room, and sitting right where I always put it was my remote control, was my necklace, was a set of earrings, was another remote control I had never seen before, was a pocket knife I had never seen before, were a couple of rings I had never seen before.
Wow. And
I'm like, holy crap. Okay. So I grabbed the things that I didn't know were mine and I knocked on everybody's door. Hey, is this yours? Is this yours? No, I've never seen that before. Went upstairs to the girls. I go, are any of these your guys' rings? And one girl was like, yeah, that's my ring. I thought I lost it. She goes, where'd you find it? I go, I found it in my room. And she's like, what do you mean you found it in your room? I go, and I told her what happened. She's like, are you kidding me? She goes, that damn troll took, we thought it was a troll, and we had a buddy of ours who we told he had got there. He had just come from Iceland. And we told him like, hey man, you better watch it. You got stuff, he goes, oh yeah, trolls do that. They're mischievous. They'll steal things, but you have to offer them tobacco and they'll give you your stuff back. They'll leave you alone unless you make them mad. So we believed that it was a troll that was taking our stuff. On that basis, there was an area between our headquarters office building and where our dormitory was. There was a path that went through some really pretty thick woods. And I remember walking through the woods a few times and hearing voices, whispers, things like that. A friend of mine had a disembodied head floating above him.
Wow.
One of the guys up in that little area, we called it the pleasure palace or the party palace. And one night we heard one of our guys that lived up in there, he was screaming and shouting, and we thought he was drunk, and we thought he was just having a fight with somebody, just blah blah. Because whenever he get drunk, he'd get belligerent and stuff. We go up there, and it's not like he's screaming, yelling at someone to fight him. He's screaming for help. He's like, "Get out of here! Get out of here right now! Get out of here!" And we're able to open the door finally, and it's like we were trying to bump the doors. Now, a couple of us at one time or other had bumped into one of these doors, and the door just popped open. So they weren't super strong doors, but we get two guys. We're trying to kick this door in, and it's not moving. And then finally, we go lean our shoulder into it, and it just pops open like it was nothing. And we found him. He was stuffed between the wall and his bed. He was upside down, with his feet like up and draped up on the bed. So he was facing if he was laying on the bed, he was laying on his back. So his feet were folded up onto the bed. We pulled the bed apart, and it looked like someone had just beat the living crap out of him. He had scratches on his chest. He had scratches on his back. It looks like a prize fighter had just, and this dude was a big dude. Like he was one of the strongest guys, like literally on our base. He was just a solid guy. And it looks like someone took him pillar to post. Yeah, that was crazy. And then that's
messed up.
It really is. So, I quickly moved after, I don't know, probably about a year, I moved out of that dorm over across the base to another dormitory and didn't have any issues in that one. There was a time where I was working, and this time I was working a mid shift, and I was the art team leader. It was a 2-man mobile patrol, so it was me and my member, and we were doing our rounds. We had to drive around this flight line area where we had hardened aircraft structures because we had resources in these hardened aircraft structures. And it was super foggy this one night. And as we were driving by, my team member is like, he's like, Hamilton, stop. He goes, you got to turn around. Someone's flashing a flashlight at us from
Wow.
over there. Now, this German Air Force base, I could still Google it. And over here in the United States, in and around hardened aircraft structures and flight lines and things like that, they don't have trees. They cut all that stuff down. Over there, they have trees. They build these things, or they plant trees around these things. That's just how they do it over there. So I turned it's a Volkswagen Bug, or a Volkswagen bus. We call them combis. So I turned it around. Kind of looks like this. Something like this. Okay. So I go and I turn it around, and I see this light flashing. So pull up, turn the brights on, and out comes a 2-man mobile patrol, the Germans. Now, unfortunately, the Germans, our counterparts, they're on foot. They have to walk this whole area on foot. And these guys, they come running out of the trees, and they are freaking out. They are like legit. They are freaking out, and they open up the side door and they pile in, and we're like, was ist los? What's going on? What's going on? And I didn't really speak a lot of German, but my counterpart spoke almost fluent German, and he's talking to him. And he's like, man, they said they heard growling. They heard a voice. They heard like, there's like, come in, Sie here, comrade, come on. And like something was trying to lure them deeper into these woods.
Wow.
And we're like, okay, you want to play? Let's play, man. We're badass Americans, you want to play? I got an M16. I'm ready to rock and roll. So we get out, and we have the brights on. And as we're walking up, the Germans they're like, no, come back. And we're like, nah. And I get probably 15, 20 feet away from the edge where the cement hits the grass, and then it's like another 10 feet inside the grass, then you hit the tree line. I get almost right to the edge where that grass meets the pavement, and something just tells me, I hear it in my head, man, you need to stop. Like, bro, you need to turn around. Like my sixth sense is just, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. Like every bit of hair on my body is just standing straight up. And I look at my team member, and he looks at me. He's like, you thinking the same thing? I'm like, yeah, we need to get back to the combi right now. He's like, something is not right. Like, it just felt, I'm sure you before, Dan, like something just doesn't feel right. And so we started bounding over, watching backwards. And when we looked, the Germans are out. They got their rifles, and they're pointed in the same direction we're coming back from. And we go and we take off. Now, to this day, I don't know what happened. And I had been in some pretty crazy situations at times. And I still, to this day, have never had a feeling like that just told me, like, hey, man, you just need to stop what you're doing. With something like that. I used to hear prop planes in the middle of the night flying over the base, like World War II prop planes. And that's pretty much what happened there in Germany. I got stationed at Cheyenne, Wyoming, F.E. Warren Air Force Base. And F.E. Warren Air Force Base is one of the most haunted Air Force bases probably in the Air Force. And it used to be an old frontier fort. It used to be like Buffalo Soldiers and things like that. It used to be an army post. And you know what, Pam, I don't know if it was a cryptid in Germany or not. I would not put it past to being something like that. But from what my buddy was saying, my team member was saying, they were saying it was like a phantom.
Mm.
Like it was a phantom that was talking to him, trying to lure them in deeper into the woods, because they were not they were just on. So where they came out of was not where we drove up to. They said that's where they were seeing it, or that's where they heard as they were walking by, and they ran across and jumped into some like shrubs or bushes that were on the other side of it, and they were posted up. They were ready to go. They had their rifles. They had one in the chamber. They're ready to rock and roll on something. So what if it was a cryptid? I really don't know. But again, Europe is the land of werewolves and other the Moorbach monster, which is in Germany as well. So yeah, they believe that was a werewolf. Now, where I was stationed, I don't know, but there are some pretty crazy folklore and tales that are around the area where I was stationed. So I digress. Back to F.E. Warren Air Force Base. Everything I'm going to tell you is documented, with the exception of one thing. I haven't been able to find any documentation on it. But the things that I've heard and that I've seen are all documented in books that are published books. You can even find them online. Some of the incidences. The old headquarters building, I think it is now the headquarters building again. I think it was doing some type of renovation when I was there, because I remember we moved from, it used to be the old hospital, and down in the basement of this hospital, they have a basement, then a sub basement. That's where like the boiler room and everything is in the sub basement. There used to be, there still is. There's an elevator that goes from the 3rd floor all the way down to the sub basement. When I was there, you could not use the elevator because word has it that a major had gotten on the 3rd floor, and as the door was closing, the doors opened back up. Some force pushed him into the wall, the back of the elevator. He watched the button for the sub basement get pushed, and it went all the way down. He had pushed the 1st floor button. So it went all the way down. It bypassed the 1st floor, went all the way down to the sub basement. The doors opened up. He literally came off of the wall. The doors closed. It went up and stopped on the 1st floor. Doors opened up. He freaked out, and he's like, close it up. Board this up so no one uses this. The LE desk, there was one time where, and this was before my time, but it is documented, and there was a standing rule when I was there that no female is allowed to be alone on the LE desk, because what had happened was there was a female by herself working the LE desk, law enforcement desk, and something started whispering into her ear, blowing into her ear, touching her hair. She raised an alarm, and when they came into the LE desk, because it's a secure door, you have to have a combo or a key. You can open it from the inside or the outside. And when responding people got there, they opened up, they found her hiding under and up into the LE desk as much as she could. She was absolutely terrified.
No doubt.
There was another dormitory. It used to be an old medical dormitory. There was a law enforcement troop. I think it was like a staff sergeant or tech sergeant. He responded to the sound of reports of a woman screaming in the dormitory. He goes up the 2nd floor. He hears a commotion. He's banging on the door. Now nothing is trying to stop whatever's going on. So he's starting to kick the door open. Just as he's getting ready to try to kick the door open, the door swings open. Something grabs him, pushes him back down the hallway. The door slams, and this girl she was violated by this ghost. She had scratches on her. She had bruising on her. And I guess whenever the ghost was done doing what it was doing, he saw the door open up and felt something brush by him, and there was nothing there. That dormitory, when I was there, was a storage dormitory. There was no people in that dormitory. You could park in the parking lot behind it where this incident happened, and you could sit there and look, and you could see the ghost peek from one side of the window. You'd hit it with the flashlight, you'd see it come over here on this side of the window.
Wow.
You'd hit that one, it'd come back over here on this side of the window. There was a dog in the dormitory that I stayed in. I was down doing laundry, and this is in the basement of our dormitory. Put my stuff in the dryer, turned around, and there's this little dog, little terrier looking dog, standing right in the doorway. And I go, hey, buddy, who do you belong to? How'd you get in here? And you know how dogs get when they want to play? They kind of like, they go like this, and they make these really goofy little movements and stuff. And that's what he was doing. I go, oh, you want to play? So I, go over, see if he's friendly so I could pet him. And he takes off running. And as I'm coming out the door, he bolts to the left. And I'm like, I just got out the door. Where did he go? There's two ways for him to go: straight and to the left. That's where the storage room is, or up the stairs to a landing, and then up another set of stairs to the landing for the second floor. So I go and I look. The storage room was closed. I go look up on the first floor landing. Now, I didn't hear the door open up. And it's one of those big, heavy steel doors you got to push with these bars that open them up. Didn't hear that open or close. Went upstairs to the landing, and there's another door up there just like that. Didn't hear those open up. And I saw that dog twice. And I asked someone about it. They said it was like an old mascot of one of the old squadrons, and he had passed away, and they buried him in a courtyard. Another time I was doing laundry, and if I'm looking down the hallway, the dorm manager's office is right here on the left-hand side of the hallway. You go all the way down. There's like another turn to the left, and then you can go, and it's like another stairway that goes up, just like the one that's next to the laundry room. But on the right-hand side is the laundry room. You go down about 5 to maybe 6 feet, and there's a door that a room, and you have a pool table in there. There's like two video games in there. There's a ping pong table. There's a nice sized TV. There's some couches. It's like a lounge, had a couple snack machines in there. And so I'm doing laundry. It's like 2:00 in the morning. I got off of a swing shift, decided to do my laundry. No one was around. And I just put my basket on top of the washer, and I hear someone break a rack of balls. I'm like, well, hell, I'll shoot some pool while everything's going on. Not a problem. Yeah. So, I go walking out, and I shut the light off, and I go and I turn to the right, and then I walk down like the 5 or 6 feet. And as I get to the doorway, the room is completely dark. So I turn the lights on because I figured you might be one of my buddies trying to mess with me. So I turn the lights on, and there are no pool balls on this pool table.
Oh, wow.
The pool balls are in the rack where they're supposed to be. The cues are hung up on the wall where they're supposed to be. I was like, this is crazy. And that's not the first time I heard that. I heard that like 2 or 3 times. There's a place on the base called FAM, F-A-M, camp, like family camp. And that's pretty much for people who have like RVs or campers and stuff, and they come to base, and they don't have any housing available, so they can stay in this campground. It's a campground, and this is very well documented as well. And I heard it one time. The legend is that there was a native girl who was brutally raped and murdered in this area by like cavalry soldiers way back in the day, and you hear her scream. Now, when I say it's documented, I mean it's documented multiple times. People staying in fam camp, people who live close to fam camp can hear her scream. And at the time, I was a responding unit hearing the screams. And when I got out of my cruiser, I heard the screaming. There were already other uh, units down in fam camp, and they said whenever they would go to where they thought they heard it, it would all of a sudden she would start screaming somewhere else in fam camp. They would respond to that area, and then she would be screaming in another area. Now, I never got down into fam camp, but I did hear the screaming. Almost every Army base, again, F.E. Warren Air Force Base was an Army base at one time. Every Army post has a cemetery on it. And I remember I was a relief officer. My call sign was Police 5, and I was working a mid shift. And it was in late November, early December timeframe. It was a full moon. And we had reports that said they had seen people in the cemetery after hours, just doing whatever. Now, probably doing some investigation or just maybe up to no good. We don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm driving, and as I'm driving by, the moon's full, and I see somebody standing in the cemetery. Now, there was probably about this much snow on the ground. Okay. So I pull my cruiser around, and I just radio in that I'm doing a check. I didn't want to say someone's in here. Just said, hey, I'm stopping doing my regular check. Copy that, Police 5. Let us know, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I come around. Don't use my alley lights. Get out. Hear the snow crunching as I'm walking around the front of my cruiser. And I start walking, and I see the lady plain as day, because the moon is huge and it's bright. Wyoming, if you've ever been to Wyoming, you look up in the sky, the stars look huge, just like Montana. And because of the snow on the ground, it was even brighter. And I see this lady standing there, and I'm like, ma'am, you can't be in here. It's like 2:30 in the morning. You can't be in here.
Jeez. Yeah.
And she's not paying me any mind. She's not paying me any attention. And I'm like, ma'am, you can't be in here. Dan, she turned and looked at me. And she just gave me this look. Now, she looked like she was wearing like period, like attire. Like she was like from like the mid 1800s.
Oh, wow.
And I go, ma'am, you can't be. And before I can be here out, I felt like this cold hit me, like a cold wind hit me. And I went like this, I went like this. And the next thing I remember is I hear Police 5, this Police 5, this LE desk, Police 5, LE desk.
Wow.
They're doing a radio check on me. Now, you do a radio check either every 30 or 45 minutes, maybe once an hour, maybe twice an hour. Just depends on whoever's on the LE desk, right? And I'm like, Police 5, all secure. When I said this, I was on my back. I felt like something hit me in my chest. I had this overwhelming coldness in my back. It hit me all the way into my bones. Like I was laying on my back, and I was probably laying on my back for like 35 minutes. Had no clue what had happened from the time I felt that first like wind hit me to then answering a radio check. I get back up, brush myself off the best I can, and as I'm looking around, I see one set of footprints. It's my footprints going from my cruiser to where I stopped, and then I see where I fell, like I was trying to do a snow angel, and then me getting back up and walking back to my cruiser. Now, I didn't say anything like this. I didn't report this, and the reason I didn't report this is that I worked around nuclear weapons. Okay, I had a top secret clearance, and there's a thing called PRP, Personal Reliability Program, and if you are taken off of that, if your PRP is pulled from you, you can't work. You're done doing some bull crap work. And I didn't join the Air Force to do bull crap work. I wanted to be a cop. I wanted to work canine. That's what I wanted to do. So that that happened there. Now in my dorm that I stayed in, this is where I saw the doppelganger. My roommate was out of town. My roommate was in Denver, Colorado, which is an hour and 25 minutes south of Cheyenne. Okay. Again, I get off work. I'm working a swing shift this time. I'm sitting in my dorm and I'm watching some TV, and I hear someone banging on the door. So I get up and I answer the door, and there's nobody there. I'm like, man, maybe it was someone on the other, down the hall a little bit. No big deal. Shut the door. I go and I sit back down. Hear the banging on my door. And I'm like, what's going on? So I look out the peephole. I don't see nothing. I open up the door and I'm looking up the hall, down the hall. Don't see nothing. Where my dorm room was situated, if I turn to the left, there was one more dorm room next to me. There was one across from me. And then around the corner were the stairs that went down to the side of the dormitory. Second floor, first floor, and outside. If you turn to the left, there's a pretty long hallway, but there was no other dorm room to the right of me. There was a day room, TV, all that type of stuff. And then if you turned, like I said, you turned to the right, there was a door that went into the day room, and there was also a door that went out to another longer hallway to where other dorm rooms were in the center, but they had one of those big metal doors again that you have to push that bar. And at the end of that hallway, there was a door that was an exit that if you opened it, well, we come to later find out that no alarm would sound. It said, if you push, the alarm will sound. No alarm, because we'd go out there on the patio, on the deck, and we'd party, do whatever, get stupid. So I'm sitting back down, and now I'm half watching the TV and half watching my door. Now there's a gap underneath that you could see light coming from underneath from the hallway, and you could see if people walk by. Well, as I'm looking, I catch something walk in front of my door and stop. And I'm like, okay, I got you. So I stand up and I'm slowly walking towards the door, and bang, 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 they knock on the door. And I'm just like the third or fourth knock, I grab the door and I pull it and I rip it open. There's nobody there. So I walk out of the hallway now, and I walk to the left and I walk to the right. Nothing. I don't hear any of the doors open or close, these big metal doors. I don't hear any of it. I go back down. Now I take my chair and I push it. I'm like right next to the door. I'm like, I'm watching you. And sure enough, I see somebody walk up in front of my door, and I'm already standing up. And I grab hold of that handle, and that first knock, I rip that door open, and there's my damn roommate standing right in front of me. And he points and he goes, ha, 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 I got you. And he took off running. And I'm like, you mother effer, you're getting, and I'm yelling this, you mother effer, I'm kicking your A. And he takes off to the right. Okay. Now I'm hauling, now I'm already coming out, and I see him turn that corner. What did I not hear? Didn't hear that door open and close. So I'm like, aha, that jerk is in the day room. So I go in the day room. In this day room, as you walk in, to the left, there's a table and 2 chairs. Okay. There's a TV. There's a couch that goes around this little corner. There's a potted plant, and there's 2 more chairs. I clear this entire room. I look behind everything. There's no roommate at all.
Okay.
Nowhere. Right? So I wait for him to come back the next day or later that day. And yeah. I say, dude, what are you doing? He goes, what are you talking about, man? I go, you know what you did, knocking on the door, pointing at me. I want to know how you went through the door and I didn't hear the door. Because he's like, bro, I just got back from my mom's house. I have no idea what you're talking about. I go, damn it, you know what
Wow.
I'm talking about. I saw you last night or, early in the morning. Blah, blah, blah. He's like, bro, if you want to call my mom right now, you can ask her. You can ask her. I just left the
Wow.
house. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened there in the military. And then after that, I've had a few more encounters. I don't know what you are on your time. So
Yeah, we're actually at about an hour and 45 minutes. I gotta tell you, you are really good at like telling these things. Just like your storytelling ability is very good.
I appreciate that.
And it's like I was like some of this stuff I just get so wrapped up in the story. I'm just thinking to myself, wow. Yeah, you have some pretty interesting and deep experiences sometimes. So we definitely want to get you to come back and share some more of your experiences
Sure.
with us. You love the detail is what really makes it. A lot of people just go straight to the heart of the story and leave out some really important stuff sometimes. And I really appreciate the stuff that you shared with us today.
Sure.
So let me ask you this before get we start wrapping it up here. Do you like with the military experience? Do you feel like there was more like possibly energy around there based on the locations and stuff? Because there was so much that happened in some of those areas where we now have military bases at.
100%, especially over in Germany, because that base is right before Durin,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Durin was heavily bombed, and also Cologne. We were really close to
Mhm.
Cologne and Bonn, and so that area was so heavily bombed, and even to the point where when I was stationed there from 1991 to 1993, they had found two 500-pound bombs um, right off of the flight line. They had to evacuate a small town right around that area, and then also they had to close part of the base off because they blew that bomb in place. And when one of those bombs were blown in place, it shot dirt and debris like 300, 400 feet in the air when it went off. It was crazy. So yeah, the energy around there absolutely, I think, is a big factor as to what happened. Whether it's good energy, bad energy, but you know, definitely it's going to help manifest things there.
Wow, yeah, yeah. It seems like it. I definitely want to like when we get you back on,
Sure.
kind of like camp in that experience a little more because I think those are some really probably some very detailed events that happen there that are significant historically as well. I just like there was so many good points that you brought up tonight to talk about as well, especially with the story of Annie. That really sticks out in my head. I think that's the second time I've heard you tell that, and both times um, it really just kind of it's heavy. It's a heavy story. Uh,
It is, and again, I don't understand why she picked me. I really don't, and I don't want to. I don't want to. I'm just glad that, and you may have people going, "Oh, Dan's full of crap." He's taking other people's stories. I'm not taking anybody's stories. You can believe me with you if you want. I have nothing to gain. I have absolutely nothing to gain to share anything. If anything, I'm going to manifest something that I don't want to manifest, and I'm going to have to deal with it. If anything,
right,
so
right.
you know I'm not trying to make a buck or anything like that. So my big thing is, hey, you believe it, you don't have to believe it. It's like Ripley's Believe It or Not, you know.
Right. right? You've definitely held like the interest tonight on the viewers because like it's been a steady stream all night long of people just like glued to the channel listening to you relay these stories. So
I'd love to come back on, and the ones that I'll tell you when I come back on a second time, have to deal with what's happened in this house that I'm in. Yeah. So.
This house. So is there? What's up with the lady with the gray curly hair?
What do you mean?
Like, for some reason, like right around the door, right over your shoulder. At one point, I kept seeing like this lady with this gray hair. It was curly, kind of. I couldn't tell. It looked like it was short, but maybe not.
Bro, are you messing with me right now?
No, I'm not. I'm like, I kept literally seeing this for just a bit, and she was just really friendly smile, wave kind of thing, and just kind of like vanished right after that. But yeah,
dude, don't.
I'm serious.
Man, honestly, there's a couple that come to mind. My Nana. How well did you see her face?
Like I could see her well enough to see that she had like just like almost a glit in her eye, and just kind of sparkly. She was wearing glasses. I couldn't tell what type of glasses, but I could definitely see the glasses. I could see the sparkle in her eye. Wow, yeah, apparently a couple of people saw. Maybe 3 people saw a Nana.
Are you serious?
I am serious. She's like, did a friendly little wave and smile and kind of like, hey, I'm here. And
I'm gonna find a picture. You know what? I have a picture of my Nana on my phone right now.
Sure.
Oh, you man.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was just kind of like almost like in a like very friendly but half kind of like surprise I'm here kind of thing.
I want you to what? Don't tell me this messenger's trying to update. I do not want to hear this. Okay, I'm gonna try to show the oh, come on now.
Yep.
No, is that really who you saw?
Yeah. She apparently likes to hang out with you there at the house. Or at least she decided to drop in for now. Probably because you mentioned Nana a couple of times, maybe. I don't know.
That's my Nana.
Wow. She's definitely there with you.
I loved her so much.
It's a good thing. She's there with you, definitely.
Oh, I was devastated when she passed away.
She's definitely a part of your world. Wow, yeah, apparently several of them saw her at one point. Probably at the same point.
Oh, man.
Like it was almost like her whole thing was like, hey, I'm here, see me. in almost a playful way. So yeah, I think the message from her is she definitely wants you to know she's there.
Oh man, Dan, gosh darn it.
It's so like occasionally I see these things during live interviews and so forth. I'll get a vision of somebody or get an energy feeling or whatever from the people around and so forth. But yeah, so just know that like some of the activity in the house is probably Nana trying to get your attention.
Yeah.
Because she definitely is there.
I think about her all the time. All the time, man.
Yeah, and like I said, apparently several people acknowledged that they saw.
That's crazy. I thought you're just. Point. I saw you were messing with me, man. Also,
no. It's like it was like clearly a pop in hello there for a minute, like at one point, and I was just like, that's why I looked at the door a couple of times over your shoulder, and I was like, really? Is that? Yeah, that is, wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
crazy stuff happens.
She was an amazing woman. Oh my gosh. Just man. The picture I showed you was after my daddy Bob's funeral. I was over in Germany when he passed away, and I came home on emergency leave, and I presented my grandma the flag off of my I presented the flag off his coffin to her, and I still remember on behalf of the United States Marine Corps and a grateful nation, we present this flag to you as a token of our appreciation.
Wow.
And I have that flag right behind me as well. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I see it on the wall there.
It's right there. There it is. Kind of right. See that big picture? That big picture is my little brother. So a little twisted. Wow. I didn't think this was going to happen tonight, man. I thought I was going to tell you a couple of my experiences and have a couple laughs with you and catch up. And
well, and it seems to be a more frequent thing right now through this month, especially. The veil is thinning. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of energy. So it's definitely to the point where we're able to see and sense and get a lot of stuff.
It was really weird that when you first said curly gray hair, and like my mind immediately shot to my Nana, and I never described my Nana to you, and that's why I said, how well did you see the face? And as soon as you said she's wearing glasses, I knew it was her, And another one, is my little brother. I've seen him a couple times, and I always look for him. He passed away way too early. So, but yeah, dude, I can't wait. I can't wait to come back on and share some more stories with you.
Definitely so. I'm looking forward to it too. Meanwhile, just know that you've got some really good energy around you. You've got a lot of protection around you. You've got a lot of love around you. So
I appreciate
that's always an incredible thing. But I do appreciate you coming on, and I'm going to one more time, just let people know where they can find you online, and where we can find updates about your future projects.
Well, the Paranormal Narrative podcast, again, I am closing that one down. I'm starting a new one, and I'm going to still keep it up so people want to see it. I'm not going to completely. I'm just not going to add any new contact on it. So no new content on YouTube or Spotify. Um, the next live I'm going to do with my buddy Josh and I is going to be Mysteries Unknown, and that's when I'm going to announce my new project. I showed you what the logo looks like and what the name of the new podcast is, and I'm really, really proud of it. I did a lot of work on it, and I think it's very catchy. It's eye catching. I think the name is straight to the point, and hopefully that'll draw a lot of people in. So
Right. Yeah, because that's a pretty hot topic, and we're looking forward to seeing that as it comes about. I'm going to drop you into the green room for a moment, and I'll be back with you in just a bit. But I'm going to close out the show, and I will talk with you in just a moment.
sure. Before you do that, I just want to say, everybody, thanks for viewing. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for that support. Because again, yeah, man, out of left field, brother, out of left field, man, and man, thanks.
Right.
I appreciate. Hey, and as my buddy Josh says, everybody out there, stay prayed up.
Right. Definitely. All right. Hang out in the green room, and I'll be right back with you.
Sure.
All right. I told you guys this was an amazing night. Amazing stories, that experiences that we got to hear from Daniel tonight. An amazing moment. I gotta tell you, when I saw the grandma in the background there for a minute, I was like, am I delusional? Am I seeing things? And then when I got the wave, I was like, oh, wait a minute. No, this is like actually happening. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight and just having this amazing experience. We're going to have Daniel back to give us some more of his experiences. And I'm going to tell you, like, I have never had such like just grabbing at you stories ever. It really, they really do speak to me. And some of the experiences are very touching, very touching. Again, I want you to, I thank you all for joining me tonight. I want you guys to remember to check me out on Facebook, the Facebook group. Like, share, and comment on this. Subscribe if you have not subscribed to my channel. Please subscribe to it. And I will see you all again very soon. May your journey always be magical.